The rain had just begun to fall in thin, cold lines against the silent glass walls of the corporate parking structure when she saw him for the first time, not as a boss, not as a CEO, but as a stranger passing through shadows. Disguised in a simple coat, her hair tied back, no trace of luxury or authority visible, she moved quietly through the dimly lit underground floor, inspecting the company she had built from nothing. She had heard whispers, complaints of inefficiency, rumors of negligence. And tonight, she wanted truth, not reports polished by executives who feared her judgment. But what she found wasn't failure. It was something far more unexpected. Near the far corner, where the fluorescent lights flickered and darkness clung to the edges, a young security guard sat on the cold concrete floor. His uniform was slightly worn, his posture tired, but his eyes burned with focus. A small flashlight rested between his shoulder and cheek, angled carefully to illuminate the pages of a thick book spread open in front of him. He wrote notes slowly, deliberately, as if every word mattered. She paused, hidden behind a pillar, watching him longer than she intended. This wasn't carelessness. This wasn't laziness. This was hunger, quiet, relentless hunger for something more. Minutes passed before she stepped forward, her heels echoing softly. He didn't notice her at first, too absorbed in the world he was building word by word. "What are you studying?" she asked, her voice calm but firm enough to break his concentration. He startled slightly, quickly sitting upright, almost embarrassed. "Ma'am, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to neglect my duty. I was just studying," she finished for him, her eyes fixed on the open book. "Yes. I mean, only during quiet hours. I never leave my post." There was honesty in his voice, not fear. She stepped closer, glancing at the pages. Advanced business management. Financial strategy. Not casual reading. Not a hobby. This was ambition dressed. Loud. It wasn't until he gently spoke that she looked up, her eyes red, guarded, and filled with a pain that no one should have to carry alone. "Are you okay?" he asked, his voice calm but sincere. She almost laughed at the question. Okay. How could she explain that her entire life had just been erased in a single evening? Instead, she shook her head slightly, unable to find the words. He didn't push. He simply sat down at a respectful distance, giving her space, yet making it clear she wasn't alone anymore. For a few moments, they sat in silence, the falling snow filling the gaps between them. Then, quietly, she spoke. Not everything. Just enough. Enough for him to understand the weight she carried. Enough for him to see the injustice of it all. He listened without interrupting, without judging. And when she finished, there was no pity in his eyes, only understanding. That was new to her. She had expected sympathy, maybe even awkward comfort. But not this steady, quiet strength. After a pause, he said something that caught her completely off guard. "Come with me." She blinked, unsure if she had heard him correctly. The world didn't work like that. Strangers didn't offer lifelines without expecting something in return. She studied his face, searching for hidden intentions, but all she saw was sincerity. "I'm not asking for anything," he continued gently, as if reading her thoughts. "You don't deserve to be here in the cold. No one does." His words were simple, but they carried a weight that reached deep into her broken heart. For the first time that night, she felt something shift inside her, a tiny spark of hope struggling to survive. Still, fear held her back. Trust wasn't something she could give easily anymore. He didn't rush her. Instead, he stood up, took off his coat, and placed it beside her. "If you change your mind, I'll be right over there," he said, stepping a few feet away to give her space. It was a small gesture, but it spoke louder than anything else. Minutes passed. The cold grew harsher. But it wasn't the cold that made her decision, it was the realization that she had nothing left to lose, and maybe, just maybe, this was the chance life was offering her when everything else had been taken away. Slowly, she stood up, wrapping his coat around herself, and walked toward him. He didn't smile widely or celebrate. He simply nodded, as if he understood the courage it had taken for her to take those few steps. And just like that, her life began to change. The days that followed were not magical or perfect. Healing never is. But for the first time in a long while, she wasn't alone. She met his daughter, a bright, kind-hearted little girl who had also known loss far too early. There was no judgment in that home, no harsh words, no expectations she couldn't meet. Instead, there was patience, kindness, and something she had almost forgotten existed, respect. Slowly, she began to rebuild herself, piece by piece. Not as someone's wife, not as someone defined by what she couldn't have, but as a person worthy of love simply because she existed. And as for the man who had changed everything with just 3 words, he never tried to replace what she had lost. He simply gave her the space to become whole again. In time, something beautiful grew between them. Not out of desperation, but out of mutual understanding and quiet strength. He saw her not as broken, but as resilient. And she saw him not just as a savior, but as someone who had also fought his own battles in silence. Together, they created something stronger than either of them had imagined, a family built not on perfection, but on compassion. Life has a strange way of breaking us at the exact moment we think we can't survive it. But sometimes, in the middle of that darkness, a door opens when we least expect it. This story isn't just about loss. It's about second chances, about finding light when everything feels dark, and about the courage it takes to trust again. If this story touched your heart even a little, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, because stories like these remind us that no matter how broken things feel, life can still surprise us in the most beautiful ways.